Hello, welcome to FM Corner. Today on my podcast, a very special guest. Kathleen Larmour with Professional Retail Services. 24 years, they just celebrated an anniversary. So we want to talk a little bit with her about career, building a business, what you look for, and so on. Kathleen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on FM Corner today.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit, start with career, kind of how did it start, how did it get to where you are today?
So, as you know, I started working for another facility maintenance company and I had left. And then a few weeks later started professional retail services with my husband. And it's been a roller coaster. It's been great. Good times, bad times, but most of all, it's actually been really great.
What's the key to the success?
I honestly feel like the key to success is you want to help people. You want to perform a service for them and help them. I think that's what our company's grown on over the 24 years and still continues to grow on. And
you kind of have different pieces of the company, right? You have mechanical for retail, you have retail security services.
Correct. There's three different companies.
Okay.
Yeah. They're all separate entities. But yes, as we saw a need for things or as clients came to us, I would open another company. I'm done now.
Got it. Great. Kind of what there's always been, you talk to companies, they do a really good job with certain things. And as you mentioned, they're asked to do more and they do that. And sometimes it puts people out of their comfort zone. In other words, you do HVAC work and somebody says, can you do plumbing? Sure. And then you start doing plumbing, but it's not necessarily in a wheelhouse or something. How did you decide, okay, we could take this on versus something else that you might say no to?
Honestly, when I started both the retail security services and retail maintenance services, the retail mechanical services, it was because more than one, two, or three clients would come and say, can you do this for us, Kathleen? Like when it came to security, me and my competitors, everybody in the industry were doing work after hours or overnights while they were doing construction in the stores or having the floor cleaned or having all kinds of stuff go major plumbing jobs at night. And their security guard company they were using wasn't showing up, which was costing them time and money.
Sure.
So I think I kept security professional retail services for 4 years and under our umbrella. And then it got so big and the need was so different. It needed a whole new set of employees, their own business. And that's what we did. And it's over $50 million in 10 years.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Incredible. It's really been great.
That's great. Absolutely. You had talked about your success. Talk about in clients that you agree to do business with. What do you look for? What's important for a client for you to say, yes, I want to do business with you versus someone else that you might say, no, I don't?
Well, there's two things. One is we like complete upfront honesty, good, bad, or indifferent. We can take it. We like to take the good and share it with the employees and give them kudos and whether it's bonuses or have them train somebody else. And if it's bad, okay, let's figure out the learning curve. Where do we go wrong and how are we going to fix it at that point? The other thing is I really just want honesty. Maybe we're not the right fit for you or you're not the right fit for us. So all the upfront conversations have to happen before. And the other thing that I was talking about is we run a credit check on everybody with the industry being so volatile. Mm-hmm. Whether it's big box, banks, grocery stores, retail, restaurants, a lot of people are filing bankruptcy. So we run a credit check on everybody who we're going to do business with to protect ourselves, protect our employees, and to protect our vendors.
Sure, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that has gotten harder recently. With more and more companies struggling and mm-hmm. long-term companies that by name and so on, and all of a sudden they're having trouble too. It seems to be more and more as you go.
It is. So we have insurance on their credit, on their receivables. So our insurance company will come to us and say, hey, watch this account. They're paying other vendors in 90 to 120 days, but you're still getting paid in 30 days. So it's just a conversation. You call up and you tell the customer, hey, is everything good? We're good. And most of those long-term relationships, I have no issue with calling them and telling them that.
Sure. And I think your comment about honesty and transparency, it seems easy, but it is difficult sometimes to get people to be honest and be upfront. I know from my Ruby Tuesday days, I took the same with all the vendors I work with. Listen, I'm a big boy. I can handle bad
No.
stuff, but I need to know so we can go work at it to be better. You know,
Right.
I want you to tell me, but it was just amazing that many times people wouldn't or keep it quiet, or all of a sudden, they're too busy to do your work. How come? And then all these issues come to the table, and you're
Mhm.
like, I never had a chance. But to get people to speak honestly and speak openly, because I'm in the same as you, I wanted to know. Tell
Yeah.
me,
Well,
I can't make it better.
one of the things we tell our staff is if there's a problem, if there's a mistake or an error, it's better you tell the client than the client calls me and tells
Sure,
me.
sure,
Call them, tell them this happened, and tell them how you fixed it.
right. And if you don't know how, tell them you're working on it. And as soon as
Correct.
you do have a response, you'll be back to them. But most people like that, but sometimes people are afraid. I've even heard people say before, well, I don't know what to tell them.
How about
So,
the truth?
well, that would be great. And even if
Mhm.
you don't have an answer, you still have to call them.
Mhm.
Not calling someone is the absolute worst thing you can do.
Yeah, because they're getting it from their uppers.
Yeah, everybody. That's behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Everybody is, I used to try to tell folks, especially when hurricanes would come in the South, listen, I'm going to be calling you all the time to get updates. You have to understand it's not me asking. I'm actually doing the talking, but I'm not asking. I got everybody in any kind of
Yes.
position at Ruby Tuesday standing outside my door, accountants, lawyers, everybody. Where's the hurricane? What's going on? What about? I get it. You don't have enough time to get the answers that I'm asking for, but I'm not the person asking.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
someone else is behind the scenes asking. So just let people know, be
Yeah.
honest. You provide retail, restaurant services, all banks, all types of stuff. Like, what's the same about all of those and what's different?
So I think the same is the sense of urgency that we have to have, especially if it's an emergency. I think what's different is the type of emergency or the type of issue. So for restaurants, it's going to be health issues. It's going to be mold. It's going to be the plumbing backed up. It's going to be the appliances broke down or the refrigerators, and we're going to lose all our product. Where restaurants, it's going to be get out there, do a temporary repair, and let's figure this out so nobody gets hurt.
Sure. I
I
always
think,
equated too, and I've never worked on the retail side, but I worked on the restaurant side. The only difference is in a restaurant, something's going down and it's got to be taken care of right now.
yes.
If I'm doing a retail store and it's in a mall and the air conditioner goes out for a little bit, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be fixed, but people may still come to the mall to do their shopping. They may not stay as long, but they may still come.
Right.
Whereas a restaurant, for the most part, if I walk in a building and it has no air conditioning, I'm out the door and going to another restaurant because there
Right.
are choices to be made. Whereas
Correct.
maybe in retail, I don't have the same choice. So
Correct.
that would make sense. Kind of when working with facility managers as customers and so on, what do you look from not necessarily the end user, but the facility manager or a person who is your kind of liaison in working with a customer?
I'm going to have to say, be honest with them and hope they're being honest with you. I think that as long as you're transparent with them, it's all going to work out fine. It's when you start not being transparent with them, then they start not trusting you anymore.
Mm-hmm. when you give them an opportunity to ask questions. I had a recent episode with a customer, and it was an emergency call, and they asked for emergency 4 hour service. We couldn't get there. We
Right.
couldn't.
Hmm.
We gave them 5 hours. We would be there an hour outside the window. And
Correct.
they chose to go with another customer, and in
Another
dealing
point.
with trying to get the information and so on, when that was the answer that was provided, that you couldn't make the emergency window. I'm like, well, I'm proud of our dispatch team for being honest
Yep.
when they could be there. Nothing's worse than, okay, we got it, we're on it, we'll be there, and then not show up.
Yes.
And too many times that's what's happened. People give answers that they think a facility manager or whoever that may be on the other side wants to hear, but it's not doable.
It's gonna bite you in the butt on the
Yeah, it
answer.
turns out worse. And sometimes
Yes.
by being honest in that, do you lose? Yeah, you can. You can. But in the long run, you won't.
Right. Because in the long run, you gain their respect
Yeah,
for telling them, I'm going to not be 4 hours, I'm going to be 5 hours. And if they choose to go with somebody else, then that's fine. But they're going to call you the next time.
sure,
They
sure.
might
They're
not call you
mad
the next
today,
time.
but yes, they're
Right.
mad today, but they'll be okay
Right.
in a day or two versus you promising them you're going to be there. And then, oh, by the way, we couldn't show up.
Right.
That's exactly right. I think for a facility person, it's really key when you build a relationship with vendors on the other side. You have to talk about what's important for you and your
Hmm.
company. And then I think it's critically important to ask the vendor who's going to be doing your work, what's important to them?
Correct.
What matters, or these are my non-negotiables. If A, B, and C happens, we're done.
Yes.
And and if we commit to payment terms and what we're going to do and all those things, we have to do that as well. And so you tell the vendor what you're looking for, and by the same token, you have to ask them, what are they looking for, and how
Yes.
do they, want to communicate, have discussions, have meetings. It's important to ask them what they want, because a lot of times people don't do that. It's a one-way street. It's the restaurant or the person, who's getting the service saying, here's what I want. They're
Hmm.
not taking that time to ask you, what do you want?
Yeah.
And that's not a true partnership.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct. I feel like our vendors, and then this has been instilled in everybody out there from day one, your vendors are important to you as your clients. If you don't take care of your vendor, they can't take care of your client.
That's
So
exactly
you
right.
have to treat the client and the vendor as equals.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. You've you've done a whole lot of things of highlighting your team. I see it all the time on LinkedIn, different people and so on. It
Yeah.
seems to really kind of be a really good thing where people get to see, usually they always see the people in charge, but
Mhm.
they get to see all the people and the people that are out there day in, day out doing the work. You talk about that a second?
So I can't take all the credit for everything. My executive staff can't take all the credit for everything because we're not the ones actually physically doing the job. We may have the relationship, but we're not the one running every work order or every job for them. So they need to be, just as much as I'm going to send a gift to a client who's going through a rough time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a little something, not a lot of money. We do the same thing internally here. We'll send somebody flowers just because they had a miserable day the day before. But yes, they need to be celebrated as much as anybody else, because they're on the front lines.
Sure. They're the ones that's out there actually hands on with the customer, the client, whoever
And
that
the
is, and the
vendor and the
vendor.
store manager
Yeah,
location. Yeah. And the rest. Yeah. They are the ones there. They're representing you.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
You've been involved in RIFMA, Connex, different associations, so on. One of my very earliest memories of RIFMA was you invited me to dinner in Dallas, and
Mhm.
I went to Dallas with you and your team. How have those organizations? Why have you been so involved in them?
So a few reasons. The first one is it's great one-on-one time with your existing clients. You get to see them, have dinner with them, talk shop with them, or just They can come up to you and say, look, this didn't work for us. Do you know somebody who does it better than you? And you have to respect that and give them somebody that you know is going to do
Mhm.
better than you. The other thing is it's great to meet new people. You meet new people. You have a lot of those conversations on the showroom floors, finding out if you're a good fit for each other, finding out what you do and what they need, and if it's even ever going to work. I would say the third thing is both of those organizations do a lot of giving back to the communities,
Mhm.
and we do that here. We do the school bags for the kindergartners or whoever. We do the Thanksgiving turkeys, and we do full meals, and we
Mhm.
donate. And the Christmas tree, the angel tree, we call it for Christmas. I mean, it just every couple of months is something else. And not only do you get to make donations to these organizations, you get to go and physically sweat it out with them and with the people who need them the most. And that's also what we do here.
Sure. Have you ever had a situation that it's at Ripma or Connex and you're just in communication or talking with people and you go, hey, that's a really good idea.
Mhm.
I should do that. I did on the restaurant side.
Yep.
I would go listen to people and who were facility people. And one, it made me feel better because they had the same problems I did. So I wasn't the
Right.
only person out there trying to figure out what to do. But the other part was by just listening, sometimes I'd be like, wow, I didn't think about that. That's a really good idea. I'm gonna go steal it,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
use it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's great to hear what we do for them, what other people do for them, and how can we make it work that we're all happy and we can
sure,
all fix it together.
absolutely. Who are your mentors? Who are the people that kind of helped you along?
So in the beginning, it was my parents.
Mhm.
They were both very successful and there's a lot to live up to, fill their
Mhm.
shoes. My dad was a dentist, my mom was a nurse. So it was that. And then I would say, when I first started, there's a gentleman in the industry, Peter Warehouser,
Mhm.
who I knew through the other company I worked with. And he knew why I left and so on and so forth. And I called him and I said, I got to do better. And he was available to me 24/7, whether it came to how to process the work order or the vendor or insurance requirements, whatever it was. If I had a question about accounting or taxes, he was available to me for at least 10 years for everything that I needed. 24/7, I could text him.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible to have people in your life like that to where you can just pick up the phone and I got a problem or I need help
Mhm.
and they're going to help you. They're going to give you information. They're going to tell you what they think you need to know, and be available.
Yeah, even though we were direct competitors, we respected each other. We would do parties together for years at Connects and NRF and RIFMA and all that other stuff. So it was great. We knew you have to respect them as much as they're helping you. You have to respect them back.
It's absolutely great point. And my last question, what's the best advice you could pass along to others? People listening to this program, whether they're facility people, vendors, whatever they may be.
I think the best thing I could tell somebody is what we tell people here when they're starting. You're only as good as your name. If you say something, you better live up to it. And if you can't, you better tell them why you can't. I think again, it goes back to honesty. If you build honesty, you build trust. If you build trust, it's all good. You just have to be honest with people and tell them exactly what's going on and expect the same from them to you.
Sure. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, exactly. Simple but powerful. That makes a huge difference. Well, Kathleen, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today on the podcast. A lot of good information for our listeners, and certainly appreciate you taking that time today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. We look forward to talking to you again on another episode of FM Corner. Thank you.
Bye.